Today's department is the sales department.
Sales is never going away. And that's one of those things that as long as you can do that, I believe you'll be able to make money for the rest of your life.
We have on the department 8-figure serial entrepreneur, Justin Owens. What is sales?
For me, this is just a transfer of emotion. I want you to feel how I feel about this product.
Amateur sales is actually overlooking how the person feels about the thing and just getting them the information they need to know, as opposed to prioritizing how they feel about the thing you're talking about.
So mattresses, they sell a good night's sleep. People, a lot of times, they're buying the result. What is that result that a person is really buying?
How would you encourage somebody to start the journey of getting better at sales?
Most people are not going to want to do it.
Justin, so excited to have you on the podcast.
Appreciate that.
I think there's so much people can learn from almost two decades of doing business.
Yeah.
And, something I do every time I try to get a conversation going is identify the North Star of every conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been involved, you said, all the things. What are all the kinds of businesses that you've been involved in?
Man, sales, direct sales. I had a call center, door-to-door sales. I've done some network marketing. We've got a solar company now, clothing line, speaking events. My partners and I, we got the Circle of CEOs, and we do a whole bunch of events all over as well. So it's been a combination of pretty much a lot of different aspects in entrepreneurship.
What would you say to this thing when people say, the way rich people get rich is not through multiple streams of income, but a single source of income? What would be your philosophy contrasting that statement, trying so many different businesses? Because I think that a lot of people try different businesses, but they struggle because maybe they didn't see a business through.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's so I think it depends on what phase. All the advice I think is good that people give, but I'll also look at okay, when did they give you that advice? And what phase of their business were they in when they said that? Because most people I know, they do have multiple streams of income that do it at a high level, but typically they focused on an area first and really mastered that. I tell people it's almost like, if somebody's going to school and they keep changing their major, they go for 2 years, change their major, go for 2 years, change their major. Well, they're going to go to school for a long time, but not graduate.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in entrepreneurship. A lot of times you'll see people doing one thing and then something else and then something else and then something else. And man, you've never grown or developed because you were trying to do so many things.
So, I would say you fortunately were exposed to sales early on.
Absolutely.
Like I'm getting exposed to sales later on.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what you that would have been your single thing for a long time that allowed you to expand.
Correct. Yeah. And that's what sometimes people say, like, oh man, well, you've done all these different things. I'm like, yes, maybe the vertical has changed, but I'm still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And sales to me is one of those things a lot of people, they get into entrepreneurship and they don't really want to do, but I'm like, I don't know how well as you're going to do as an entrepreneurship if you don't know how to sell.
Yeah.
So you either got to be really good at selling or you got to partner with somebody that's a master at it, because even everything that's coming up with AI right now, automating stuff, like somebody still has to know how the sales process works and how conversations work, because if you don't know that, you're still not going to make any sales. So Sales is never going away. And that's one of those things that as long as you can do that, I believe you'll be able to make money for the rest of your life.
Can you conceptualize, let's just bring it down to somebody, because most people understand that I could sell a service, a product for exchange of money, but the way you get that sale is by selling.
Yeah.
Can you just boil it down? Like, what is sales?
For me, this is just a transfer of emotion. Like, I want you to feel how I feel about this product. And that's why I always tell people, like, the first thing you got to do is figure out what type of sales you're really good at. I learned this when I was young. I think it was Brian Tracy. It was one of his books. And it's not 100%. Like, at this point, I can sell pretty much anything, but I still like to sell some things better. And he said, typically, people either want to sell something that is like a physical product or something that's not tangible. So it's like a tangible product or not tangible. So like books are tangible. Some people like to sell tangible products. So maybe it's like body stuff or a juice or a weight loss thing, because it's something that people get like a tangible result. But then some people like ideas. Like insurance is an idea. Investments are ideas. Real estate is tangible, but in some ways it's still an idea because people are buying it with a thought of something that may or may not happen.
Yeah.
And I think once you figure out what type of sales that you feel like you're naturally better at, then you start figuring out, okay, well, now that I know I like this type of sales, let me dive into what product that I feel really good about talking about. I've never done extremely well at a product I didn't believe in. Because what happens is when the customer is giving you the objections, which they all will, inside you're going to be agreeing with them. It's like, yeah, this does kind of suck.
Yeah,
it is a little expensive. But when you really believe in a product, you're like, nah, that doesn't matter, bro. Let me show you how I see this. And then the whole conversation is, how can I get you and us to be on the same side of the table looking at this problem and helping you solve it?
That's really good. A transfer of emotion.
Yeah.
And I think most like amateur sales is actually overlooking how the person feels about the thing and just getting them the information they need to know, as opposed to prioritizing how they feel about the thing you're talking about.
Correct. Yeah.
And you're saying like this happens in a conversation.
Yeah, it is.
And I know it can happen in content, and we can automate that and all those things. But you say the types, like once you identify the type of sale that resonates, what would you say are like various types of sales?
Well, I mean, some of it's face-to-face, some of it's door-to-door. Some people do good on social media. Some people do good over the phone. I mean, it's so many different styles of selling, but then for me, it's more so like, I'm better face-to-face or on Zoom or in person. I did over the phone sales because I wanted to get that skill set, because I was like, okay, if I can learn how to do that, that actually made me better at video sales and Zoom sales, because now it's like I have to be able to convey an idea without me being able to show you or point it to you like I can in real life. Yeah. And so those are the parts of developing your skill set in the arena of sales that I think makes you better. Selling on stage is different than selling one-on-one, because now I have to literally sell different personalities with one presentation and hope that I hit on the majority of everybody's mindset. So, and it's much easier to condense or to have a conversation with one person than 3,000 people and hope they're all thinking the same thing. Yeah.
I'm learning that like the level of mastery because you have to identify the person you are selling to, and the kind of buyer they are. Yeah. And there are people that are the logical buyers. Yep. Some people are emotional buyers. For sure. I mean, everyone at the end of the day is buying emotionally. They're making a connection there. But like, tell me how this makes me more money, I'm in. Or tell me how this is going to change my life, I'm in. Yeah. And the one to many is a good, I'm like going down that approach.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's been really cool.
And it's getting people's like, it's like, I want you to get emotionally involved, but I want you to justify it with logic. Because there's some people, that's why they sometimes I used to have this problem when I was younger, is I would get somebody really excited, they make a decision, and then after they thought about it, they'd be like, I'm gonna cancel. And I was like, what happened? They were cool when I was there. They were cool when their impulse was really high, but then after they sat down with it, it didn't really make sense. And so that's when you start learning how to make sure a person's excited, but then you make sure before you leave that the conversation and the sale has been justified with logic on the back end of like, why does this make sense? And then if you can do that, now they can defend that decision to their friends. It's like I don't know if I'm sure you bought something fly, like maybe some shoes or jewelry, and somebody's like, man, you spent that for this? Yeah. But when the person probably sold you on it really good, you're like, man, what? You don't know what these are? Yeah. And then you explain to them like, oh man, I didn't know that. But if somebody comes to you and you didn't know, you're like, really? I got ripped off? So these shoes weren't supposed to cost that much? No, man, you get it for this. It's like, oh man, that guy just did me dirty. It changes the entire conversation. Yeah. So I try to leave my customers being equipped or clients being equipped to be able to defend their buying decision as well.
How would you encourage somebody to start the journey of getting better at sales?
Most people are not gonna want to do it. I think door-to-door sales is a great place to start, bro.
Okay.
Because you get instant feedback. It's like, and you have to be able to carry the rejection immediately. Like, I'm 6'5", I'm black, so door-to-door wasn't the place I wanted to be all the time. It's just, it's not the safest place, honestly. All right, I put it like this. Most of the time in door-to-door sales, where you make the most money is what they call like power hours, which is like 6 to 8 o'clock, because most people are working during the day.
Yeah, right.
So you catch them at night. Well, it gets dark at night. I don't want to be the 6'5" guy black at your door knocking at that time. But man, I learned so much, like how to communicate with people, how to make them feel comfortable, how to go from a person being a stranger 30 seconds ago to making them a friend. I don't know if you can really capture that in any environment as fast as you can door to door, but it does suck. So I tell you don't got to stay there, but I think that's a great place. Social media makes it really easy now. But it's the same thing. Like it's the same mentality why people don't want to test content and put stuff out there. It's that same rejection idea that you just in door-to-door sales. You're like, okay, all right, cool. I got to go to the next door. That sucked. Okay, let me go to the next door. Social media, same thing. It's like, hey, I posted a video, didn't work well. Let's adjust it. Let's change our approach.
Yeah.
And so when you start applying some of those principles that I learned in door-to-door sales, it just makes, for me, the entrepreneurship journey a lot easier because it's not much more tougher than door-to-door sales, honestly. Yeah.
Dang, sales will make the entrepreneur journey much more easier.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And dude, it's crazy because it's communication, it's psychology, it's strategy, it's timing, it's cadence. Like there's so much.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, when I think about, usually the journey of somebody growing in sales, usually it's they're so inclined about talking about the stuff.
Yeah.
Like the process and all those things. And there's that saying that you'll never see an airline market the seat. They always market the destination.
For sure.
But talking about the payoff and painting the picture of what could be. Like, I don't know. Can you speak to that? Break that off somebody who's like, nah, dude, like I have the best product in the world. It's like, no, it's not about you having the best product in the world. It's about what your product can do or service could do. Hey, department fam, wanted to take a brief break from this conversation. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is that, did you know that 75% of the people that watch this podcast on YouTube actually aren't subscribed, which is a high chance that you're not subscribed. So number one, I want to say thank you for listening or watching the podcast. And number two, you can hit that subscribe button, that would be amazing. The second thing is, if you are an entrepreneur, content creator, or somebody looking to make money online, I want to encourage you to come to this online event called the Content to Cash Challenge. This is a special 5-day event that's going to give you access to the system I use in my business to make multiple 6 figures with my content. If you've been desiring to either get your business and brand more exposure, grow a YouTube channel, whatever it is when it comes to video, I would encourage you to jump into the Content to Cash Challenge. We'll be sure to post the link to the challenge down in the show notes or the description. And I want to encourage you to jump into the VIP experience. This will give you access to a 1-hour Q&A call every day of the challenge. This will guarantee myself to answer a personalized question you may have. So I'll see you on the Content to Cash Challenge. Now let's jump back into the conversation.
Yeah, it's the old adage of like, they don't sell mattresses, they sell a good night's sleep. And people, a lot of times, they're buying the result. They don't really care about the car. It's like when you get the car, it's like, yeah, are you really buying the car? Well, if you just want any car, most cars will get you from point A to point B. But how do you want to feel when you're sitting in the car? How do you want people to look at you? Like, that's what they're selling you on. Like, hey, if you have a problem, we're going to take care of you. Is it the peace of mind? Is it the safety of knowing your family's going to be covered if there is an accident? If you can get past just like the surface stuff of like, this is cheaper, or this is what this product is going to do for, for instance, if it's like a facial product, it's like, are they really selling this cream, or are they selling your face is going to be clear? And then, imagine how your life is going to be, and you don't have to worry about being out and bumps on your face. Like, fitness people do the same thing. Are they selling weight loss, or the transformation of how you're going to feel fitting in the clothes that you've always wanted? And I think when people can get past just hey, this is a cell phone, this is a camera, it's like, no, it's like, what is that result that a person is really buying? And sometimes you find that out in conversation, or you have to be able to explain it to them what that result is, because sometimes they don't know.
Yeah, dude, something I have found, because you put yourself out there to have these conversations, people are telling you how they perceive that payoff. Yeah, they're giving you the language. So like, I used to make camera tutorial videos and stuff, and that's what a lot of people know me for. And there's this term where it's called like how to get the depth of field, or they call it bokeh.
Okay, never heard that one.
But like, when you're making videos, you just want that blurry background.
Yeah,
you just want to pop out from the background.
Exactly. Yeah.
Those are terms that connect with you.
Yeah.
But because I'm the camera guy, but if I'm trying to sell you on my like the process and like those terminology, I need to know how you say it and you explain it. Which helps me. Hey, are you looking to like just pop out from the background in your videos? What if I told you it was just a push of a button? And like, that's all people, just tell me what to.
Exactly. Yeah. People they really just want the result all the time. That's why a lot of times in sales presentations, people are like, just get to the point. Like, what is the thing?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people don't want to go through all these things. And that's the thing. It's like when I say transfer of emotion, I want you to feel how I feel about it, but you may like something totally different about this thing than I do. And I got to be flexible enough in my conversation to help you see that. Like there's some businesses that I've been a part of and I'm talking to people and, you know, let's say it's like a network marketing business. And the guy's like, the guy wants, I'm trying to get him in here to make some more money. And you talk to the person like, no, but they just wanted community. So you were talking about money and they don't even care about money. They care about community and helping people and helping the environment and stuff like that. You touched on none of that. That's why they never bought it. Same thing with like courses and stuff like that. Sometimes people are just trying to sell, hey, I do credit, I do this. And it's like, that's cool, but they're not just trying to sell credit.
Yeah.
What are they trying to do on the back end?
Yes.
And I think the ones that you see do really, really well at it, they understand that and they speak to that more than most people.
Yeah. And it's crazy how much that when you do grasp this, it's almost like a moment where it clicks.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're like, oh my goodness, like our friend, I don't know if you know Marcus Y. Rozier.
Yeah, for sure. That's like my brother.
Yeah. So he did a keynote yesterday and I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, 2 years ago, I wouldn't know what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
But the dude was like pre-framing
Correct.
David so well.
Yeah.
And speaking to emotion, speaking to what your life could look like and this, that, and the other. And it's crazy to be on the, once you learn it and it clicks, you're on the other side.
Yeah.
But how much it influences marketing.
It does.
Because now you get to market with the information you got from doing sales. It's crazy how like it single-handedly can affect every aspect of a business.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because I did learn that, sales is the entire process.
It is the entire.
Right?
That's what I say. Always be closing.
Always be closing.
Everybody's like, oh, I need to work on my closing. I'm like, if your closing not good, it's probably a whole bunch of stuff leading up to that point that you weren't doing well.
Yeah. And then the fulfillment is sales.
Yeah. Because
that's getting people to either buy up more or buy again. Yeah. And so, it's just such a fascinating concept because I know we were about to start, go into leadership and stuff, but it's like I think most people, because even leaders need to sell.
Oh yeah. You got to sell the vision all the time.
Sell the vision.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, can you talk real quickly about when you felt like it clicked? So like you find yourself in sales, but like when did it was like, I get.
It was, so I was doing door-to-door sales and a part of the business model was like, hey, before you can start your own like office, you had to train these people up to be able to do what you were doing. Because first you had to be able to perform, right? So it's kind of a simple process, very similar to like life. Like you should be able to do what it is that you're talking about first. And then you can train other people how to do it. And I was like, man, if I want to be able to stop selling at some point or sell more, I have to be able to reproduce myself. And anytime somebody says they want to scale their business, I always tell them just put scale equals leadership. You're not going to be able to scale without leadership, because you have to have the right people in the right positions, doing the right things, the right actions to be able to get consistent results over and over and over again. And so for me, leadership was the game changer for me to really start understanding and mastering. And that's when my income went to an entirely different level. Because I was like, okay, if I can duplicate what I'm doing in other people and let them run their own ship, well, now you have freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the capacities, like how many of the different, because I know you said you started you have so many different kinds of businesses and stuff. How are you leading and getting better as a leader?
Yeah, well, I study it all the time.
Okay.
John Maxwell is one of my favorites in that space. Miles Monroe is another one that I really like listening to. And in some ways, it's funny. Bob Proctor doesn't really talk about leadership per se, but there's a lot of things that he does that really touch on the mindset of how a leader can cast vision and help people see beyond where they are. And also Tony Robbins. Those are kind of like my ones that I really look at for different things myself. And it's just studying it over and over and over again. Because I tell people most of the time you only need a couple books to really change a lot of stuff that's happening. And so for me on the leadership side, it was developing the leader within you with John Maxwell, and then developing the leaders around you. And what I noticed when I first started in business is I would recommend those two books to people, and everybody always wanted to jump to developing the leaders around you. Like, I got to get my team right. And I'm like, yeah, but are you right? Because if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead other people.
Right.
And that's where people don't know the breakdown is like, you think about some of the top athletes, they always talk about like how Kobe was in the gym early. That's leadership.
Yeah.
He stayed late. That's leadership. I was looking at Kyrie Irving. They lost, but he stayed on the court and, dapped everybody up, shook everybody's hand, tapped all the guys on the back. And I'm like, he's understanding a higher level of leadership now. He's like, I can't be the same young Kyrie that I was when I was younger.
Yeah.
I've got to be an example of, hey, this is how you operate when you're losing. That's leadership. It's like anybody knows how to operate at a high level when things are going the way you want it to go. But how do you operate when they don't go the way that you want it to go? How does your team know do they even know you're having a bad day? Should they know you're having a bad day? And I started looking at those things like, okay, well, how does my communication change when I'm under pressure, under stress? And how do I still keep people excited when things aren't the way they want it to be? Because most of the time in most businesses, stuff is going on all the time.
Right.
Sometimes people don't know how many times people were close to being out of business if they had a good leader.
Yeah.
And they were able to navigate through it. So for me, it was those 2 books and studying them over and over and over. I'll probably listen to them and go through them probably maybe like 3 or 4 times a year still.
Yeah. No, that's really good. Because like there is a tension to live in when it comes to knowing you're a leader.
Yeah.
Becoming a leader. And that tension is, there are times where you have to put it on. You have to tell yourself, no, I'm a leader. I can't respond that way.
Yeah.
But because you are a student of the art of leadership, most of the time it's the overflow of your consumption.
Yeah.
And because you've dialed in how you're consuming or what you're consuming, it's the overflow. Like the amateur leader would show their emotions on their sleeve right away.
Yeah.
The person that it's like that they've become the person. Yeah. They can take a moment and be like, no, I mean, I used to respond like that. I don't anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's what is that? That old quote is like, if you call yourself a leader, and you look around and nobody's behind you, you're just taking a walk. There's a lot of people that they feel like they're leaders. Like, cause I run across a business there, but I'll be like, hey man, I need you to talk to some of my leaders. I'm like, okay, cool. What qualifies them as leaders? Well, because they do this and this and that. I was like, well, that makes them good producers. But what about good leaders? Because those are 2 different things. How many times have we seen athletes that produce well on the field, but back later on you found out they were terrible in the locker room? It means they were terrible leaders. And those aren't the guys that get paid a lot of money long term. Yeah. They may get a contract, but then people are like, oh man, this guy, he's actually, although they produce well, they're actually a negative influence on their locker room. Wow. So you're not that valuable as you think you are just because you're putting up points. Wow. And then you've seen players that are like, they stay around the league for a long time. It's like, man, they're not even that, they don't even score that much. But they're like, man, what he does in the locker room or what she does in this environment is so valuable that we had to keep them around. And that's where you start learning like long-term leadership. Leadership and sales are some of the best skills to really learn and master. I mean, not to get super spiritual, but like Jesus Christ, great leader. I mean, even if greatest you don't necessarily go into like, that's not your spiritual belief, man, there's a lot of spiritual principles that 100. A person can learn from just his example and how he operated people when he was tired, when he was hungry, when he was frustrated, when he was tempted. When he was tempted, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. You can see how he did it. And then, sometimes people say you shouldn't wear your emotions on your sleeve. Well, it depends. There were times where Jesus got a little irritated, but it was for the right reasons. Yes. And it's like, you have to know when to turn those emotions on, when to turn them off, when to dial them up, when to pull them back, and when to cry, when not to cry. It's all those things that you can learn from great stories that we've all been taught. That's so good. And just how his leadership is still influencing, and it started with 12. And so there's a temptation or a heavy desire to want to be known by so many people and lead so many people, when in all honesty, it's how you lead the few. Exactly. Because his example kept going. And what was it? What they say? Jesus didn't build buildings, he built people. Yep. And that's why now you have the buildings, because he spent so much time with developing the people. And you think about it, how long was he really developing them? A couple years. Yeah. No, it's so good. So it's there's so much to learn from those things when you study them over and over and over. I still pick up new stuff now. I'm like, man, this is so good, And I try to put myself in situations like, like if I'm with guys, like, would I really wash everybody's feet? Like not just, back in the day, they didn't even have shoes. I mean, they had like sandals. So it's like, everybody's feet dusty. Would I really be like, hey man, all right, y'all give me the water, I'm gonna wash your feet? Would I be like, all right, somebody's gonna do this? But it's those things of like, I learned the stories when I say, okay, in what scenario can I do that in my business? And for me, sometimes it's been, hey, you get to an event and everything's not right, I'll jump in there with the team and be like, hey, let's get this done. Hey, let me show you how we need to do this. Because I'm like, that's not washing somebody's feet, but that's an example of, let me get in here and let me help you. And let's make sure we figure this thing out together and show you how to do it. Now I can come back to my team and say, hey, this is how we got to handle stuff. And then they have more respect for me because they saw me actually do the thing.
So good.
Yeah.
Like, what's your perspective on like being a leader that feels like they have to show up?
Yeah.
Because like you say, like you have all these businesses and, and we were talking about like influencing maybe like leaders at the top or executives and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, I wrestle the tension of like, I don't personally need to go in, but I'm going in so they can see my face.
Yeah. I think it depends. So I think this all depends on the phase of a business that a person's in. So if it's like a new business, I think you do have to be present, or the leader has to be present. So how it's always taught with business is that there's a couple roles that you can play. Number one, you could just be the investor into a business, right? And so you see like the Tony Robbins and a lot of people, they invest in a lot of businesses. They may not be the main leader in that business, but they invest, right? The other way you can come into a business is being a consultant. And so a consultant is like, you may get a little bit of my money, you get a little bit of my time. And then the other way you can come into business is you can be an entrepreneur in the business. Typically, you can only be the entrepreneur at one time in 2, maybe 3 businesses. And I think you have to figure out which one of the ones that you can actively be in. Like for me, like my clothing line, I'm like, that's easy because all I got to do is wear the stuff, post the stuff, get some of my friends to wear the stuff, post the stuff. That was easy. My primary business now, my solar company, I'm like, okay, I've got to be involved there. But there's other businesses that I have, and I'm like, okay, hey, look, my brother will run this company, or I would invest money into this company. I'm like, look, y'all ain't get a lot of my time or anything, but I'm gonna make sure that if I'm investing into it, this person is doing what I would be doing as the entrepreneur in the business that I'm a part of. And I think once you kind of know which ones you do have to show up and which ones, even if you're not showing up, that person needs to be showing up, it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Broken down plain. What has been the most fun you've had in business?
The most fun, probably would say over the last 6 or 7 years, we were in like the Forex and crypto space. It was just really fun, man. We made a ton of money, helped a lot of people make a lot of money. We did a ton of events all over the world. So that was something that was really, really fun because the impact was like a worldwide impact. My clothing line is really dope too because the conversation is just really easy conversation to have with people. And the message for me was it started, like that was a business that started off a conversation with other people because, like I said, I'm 6'5", I'm Black, I live in Atlanta. So everybody's like, oh man, you play basketball? I'm like, no. Rap? No. What do you do? I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur. And literally, I made the shirt because I got tired of people asking me, what was I? And then when I wore the shirt, people were like, hey man, where you get that from?
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I just made this for myself. They're like, oh man, can I get one? I was like, yeah, I'll make you one. And then as I start wearing, people was like, oh man, I like that. So from an organic standpoint, that's one that I love to just see grow because it's a message that's just always going to be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the foreign exchange business and talking about in terms of past businesses, that was really fun. I'm enjoying the challenge and the excitement of the solar business now because it's so much growth potential in it, and not a lot of people know about it. Like I don't know of many people that even talk about it on social media.
Yeah, no.
And so for me, it's like a new vertical to go in and say, okay, let me prove that building a culture, developing leaders, developing sales. Like I'm literally showing people. I've been documenting over the last almost year all the things that we've been doing. So in 2-3 years, when people see what we built, they're like, wow, this thing works in other spaces as well. So it's been really fun. Yeah.
And in all your ventures, how often do you have a partner?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them. I used to not be a partner person, to just do it by myself. But if you choose the right partners, it can be really good. If you choose the bad partners, it can be really bad. I've had all of them.
Okay.
And so I've learned from bad ones on things that I made sure I needed. Because at the beginning, like when I was younger, it was like people that I liked. Like, oh, we're friends. Let's go to business together. And it's like, we may not see eye to eye on stuff. Mm-hmm. We may not agree. We may have not even identified roles. there were things that I didn't know. But now, like
what would be some red flags?
Well, one, I have to see how people handle problems, first of all. Like it's a red flag I would see just in talking to the person or talking to people that knew them over time.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of them are like, how do they handle problems? How do they handle stress? How do they respond when they're frustrated? What do they do when their back is against the wall? What kind of decisions do they make when their back is against the wall? Those are like red flags. I mean, personally for me, everybody may not feel this way, but when I see how people are with their significant other and how they operate in that environment, I'm like, man, if you would do this to them, and that's interesting, So
yeah,
I would say this is a character flaw, and you have to pay attention to it. Drinking, sometimes do they go too far? Do they know how to handle it in different environments? There's a time and place for everything. It's like, hey, we're celebrating, so no judgment zone. But it's like, is this you all the time? And so I look at a lot of those things. I'm evaluating a lot of those things before I go in business with people. But like now, all the business partners I have now, I've known them for a long time. Like in our solar company, Harbor, E.T., Eric Thomas. Yeah, so he's my business partner in that. I met E in 2013, 2014. But that came through a relationship with David Shands and CJ. I think you saw CJ yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Social Proof Podcast. He's also part of the solar company as well. But you're talking about this is now 10 years later that got a chance to know each other.
Wow.
Follow each other, connect with each other, build relationships, hang out with each other's families. And then you're like, okay, yeah, this could actually work.
Yeah.
It's an industry that's growing. It's a space that makes sense, and everybody knows what they do.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what they don't do. And so when you have that, it's like, those are like great partnerships and relationships because they've been time tested. Same thing with the clothing line. I got Nehemiah Davis, and then Jason Lobdell. They're partners with me on new ACOs. And that, like, I brought Neo in. I didn't even necessarily need a partner, but he was rocking the brand so much. We started talking. I was like, man, look, you've in a sense been serving the brand, and without asking for anything, which is a sign of leadership too. Yeah. Hey, let's see if we can make this make sense, and it did. And so when I look at things like that, I'm looking at the time, the relationship, or if I don't have the ability to get all of that, then I'm going to do some research with the people that are around that person to see how they are.
And then like on a practical level, it's like, okay, we shake hands. Let's do this together. Like,
we do agreements too.
Yeah. Okay.
I learned that too. Like the first couple of businesses, it was like that. Hey, let's just shake hands. And I'm like, nah, because it's the best time to do stuff and get everything clarified is on paper, early on. And I would always make the mistake. Anytime something went really bad, it was because I didn't have the paperwork and writing, because when it's in paper, that's when you are very clear on everybody understands what it is they do. And also with partnerships, it's like a lot of times people try to figure out how to get in, but it's like, okay, how do we get out? Let's say this doesn't work well. How do we end this amicably? Well, you can put all that in place at the very beginning.
What kind of lawyer would that be, or attorney?
A typical like business contract attorney. I mean, it's baseline agreements plus whatever you and your partners would talk about, and that's what you would have to have add in. But like any like business contract attorney, they normally do it. Okay. And those are things that I don't skip anymore. Yeah. I used to pass it on all the time, and I'd be like, bro, why did you do this? Because it's almost, I always tell people like, you feel like you're a good communicator until you start using something like ChatGPT. Yeah. I used to think like, oh man, I'm a great communicator. And you type in what you said in ChatGPT and it gives you what you said. You're like, wait a minute, that's not what I meant. So you can even think you're writing down something the right way. And then when you get the feedback from you, like, no, okay. All right, so let me be specific about what my roles were. Because I've been in partnerships where people thought they were going to get the entrepreneurship, Justin. And I was like, oh no, you're just getting the money. Yeah. I'm not going to do what I'm doing here, plus give you money, right? Plus do that. No, that's a whole different game. You see what I'm saying? And so that's why those conversations are really important. But I've also seen the opposite, where sometimes people, I was the person and I thought I was going to get more from the person than they were going to give me. And I said, okay, you know what? Hey, before we move too fast, let's sit down and be very clear on what are you going to do? What am I going to do? What does the day-to-day look like? What are you expecting from me? Hey, what if payroll can't be covered? How do we handle that? Are we both putting in? Is it me? When we put in, how do we get the money back? How do we recruit? It's like all of these little conversations of, hey, if it goes well, hey, we shouldn't have to address any of this. But if it doesn't, how do we handle that conversation?
Yeah, and do you ever find yourself like making updates when sometimes a junction?
Yeah, you have to. Sometimes you got to make those, what do you call it? Addendums or amendments to it. Yeah. It's like, hey, we found something else. Let's just add this in so we know how we're going to handle it. And if it's good people you're doing business with, you're not going to have everything outlined.
Yeah.
But you want to have the baseline conversations outlined so then it's really clear, because most businesses you'll find out they fall apart from the inside, not from the outside. It's always internal stuff. It's pride, ego, communication, miscommunication, greed, and this all those things that start coming up, and you got to say, okay, well, how do I protect myself? It's even the conversation of like, what happens if somebody passes away?
Right. I think Dave Ramsey says there's like a few D's. I don't know if it's like 4 or 5 D's. It's like death, divorce, disability,
all of that, bro. Yeah. And they have insurances for a lot of that stuff. It's like, hey, if you die, the company can have a policy on you, and your significant other's not going to come in and have your part. We're going to buy them out with this policy, and they're going to be taken care of. There's a lot of things that you do have to talk about for sure.
Have you sold any businesses?
I have. I had an ambulance company. I sold that earlier this year. My brother was running it.
You had an ambulance company.
Yeah, we had 4 ambulances. We had a lot of patients, and we had it for like 3.5 years.
Wow.
And then we sold it at the top of the year.
How was that? If that was your very first business that you sold?
Yeah.
Did you build it trying to sell, or you just built it to a place where it was like pretty self-sustaining?
Yeah, and it was just like my brother was running it. That was one of the ones I wasn't going to be the entrepreneur in, and it was like he wanted to do some other things. We had clients, we had patients, we had trucks. I thought, okay, cool. Somebody wanted to come into the business and buy it as it was. We're like, cool, hey, here you go. Y'all can have that. So
they approached you.
Yeah, they approached my brother, but they had been doing business for a while.
Yeah, okay.
And I built the business with the idea that at some point we could sell it to somebody, but it was when. I was like, I don't know when, but this is one of those ones you can actually sell. Not every business is something that people want to buy, but that was one that people did, and so that one was pretty cool.
What would you say are like elements, like principal elements that your ambulance company had that made it sellable?
Well, you had to have customers that were paying consistently. We actually had equipment that made it very valuable because there are things that are really expensive, like ambulances and materials and stuff that are really expensive. So somebody in that business would just want to buy that stuff anyway. The licenses, they take a long time to get. And so there are actually people, believe it or not, that'll buy the company. Sometimes they'll just buy your numbers from you. And so there were so many components of it that were sellable that it just made sense from a business standpoint. Dang. And there were things I had never thought about because, when I think about like digital businesses now too, it's like, okay, I want to do some things that are not personality driven.
Yeah, they call it key man risk.
Yeah. Yes. And that's why sometimes you see those businesses where somebody will buy it out, but they still need the person to be in there because like, okay, like that's where you'll see like some of the online marketers now trying to figure out, it's like, okay, I have a business that's producing income, but I'm the business. And nobody wants to technically buy a business where you're the product because if something happens to you or you're no longer pushing it, then this completely dies.
Yeah.
And that's not really a sellable business in a lot of people's eyes.
So I am a full believer, and I understand that the business I'm building is a time-based business for how long I'm willing or able to do it.
Correct.
And that is the uniqueness of it.
Yep.
Is that like it doesn't have it's been successful fairly quickly.
Correct.
But I know I won't be able to sell it. But these conversations, the relationships that I'm building is allowing me to acquire skills that like one day, 19 years or 15 years in, an opportunity would present itself and I'll have skills to add to a business that could be primed to sell. And that was because I put myself in this position.
Correct.
But the self-awareness to know that personal brand business is a really smart business model to make a lot of money in a short amount of time.
Correct.
But just knowing that like to sell it will be a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah. And that's the thing people have to know is like you said, the awareness to know, I know what this is.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm going to make money. I'm going to build a lot of relationships, but this may not be the thing that I sell. I'll probably have this one for a long time, but it can help me create something that is sellable, scalable, create the relationships to even open the doors for some of those conversations. Yeah. And so
I would say one way to sell a personal brand, because I know John Maxwell sold his name.
Yeah.
but what does he have? He has paying clients. He has equipment would be his books, his ideas. They're paying for him. Like he's replicated himself in the form of equipment or something tangible. And so that lives on.
Yeah, it
does.
So
that would be kind of the backwards business.
John have you been to one of his events?
I have not.
It's a really good event. Now, okay, I love John, right? I wouldn't say he's the most dynamic speaker in the world. So you're not going to leave there like a
to cop on a stool. Yeah. Let's have a conversation.
But what I love when I went to his event, bro, his team is like, you could tell he teaches leadership. Like from the way they greet you at the door to the energy that they have. Even at the end of the event, how organized they were with like taking pictures. It was like, it was a line. John was sitting there and it was like, hey, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go here. Hey, hand me your phone. We're going to hand your phone down here. We're going to take the picture, hand it to you. Like they just got you in and out. So it was like literally, you didn't even have time to be like, hey, John, thank you so much. And no, take the picture, keep it moving. Take the picture, keep it moving. I love the systematic approach of his event. And I could tell the difference of his event versus some other events that I've been to, even including mine. I'm like, oh man, we got to get the team right. Cause they had this thing running like an assembly line. That's and you could tell they worked on it, you know? Yeah. So yeah, it's his is very special to watch. And I'm like, if you can apply that to like a dope entrepreneurship event, it would be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been in business almost 2 decades. What do you feel like is like the trend, and more than trend, like something you see that has come around recently that's probably going to stay? Cause you say like you do Run the Play. That's your podcast.
Oh yeah.
So like there is an element where like CEO entrepreneur should still have a brand.
Yeah, for sure.
Mark Zuckerberg is like going crazy. I know he loves to fight.
Yeah.
Dude's rocking boxy shirts and gold chains. It's so random. Like,
no, it is. Yeah. So you said what do I think is going to be around for a while?
Yeah.
You know, I feel like we're going to enter a space that it's always been around, but I think people are going to start realizing that they don't have to be the CEO to make really good money or to have the same time freedom. CJ, he's the Secret Success podcast. He always say, Justin, you have to figure out, are you the person that needs to like join a team or lead a team? And not everybody can lead a team. Right. Sometimes you have to be willing to be a part of the team. And I think we had so many entrepreneurs like since COVID till now realize that maybe I'm not cut out for this whole.
Dude, I honestly think there's like a false hope message of like entrepreneurship is the only way.
Yeah, no, it's not.
And it's kind of like me and my friend talk about it a lot because we'll see a post or a tweet that went viral, and I'm like, I don't know, like, because not everyone is built to think about it because there's no days off.
Yeah,
July, dude, like Art was like, bro, that's crazy. July 4th just like flew by.
Yeah,
I was like, we can decide on when we want to celebrate July 4th,
right?
But the idea that like everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, it's kind of I'm having to figure out how to lead through that, especially when we're preaching freedom and lifestyle and stuff. But yeah, I don't. Yeah,
but I think there's ways to do it. Like you look at like Microsoft did it really well with some of their early on employees, where it's like they found a way for them to be a part of the big game. It's like Bill Gates' assistant is a multi-millionaire. She never did anything with computers, you know, but there was a way for her to be a part of the overall win. And I feel like that's an aspect for both sides of entrepreneurship. It's like, as the owner, how do I help my team feel the big wins, right? And then as a person that's maybe tried entrepreneurship or wanting to be in it is, am I ready to be a CEO? And maybe you are. So I'm not saying you're not. Or like me, there were times I had to say, okay, you know what? I'm definitely an entrepreneur, but there are some things I need to learn.
Yeah.
And there are some things that you only learn by seeing it done and not reading it in a book. You're like, oh, this is how you handle that situation. Wow, I would have never known that. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be inside to learn it. And so I feel like you got to figure out, is this the season where you have to learn in entrepreneurship by like tutelage or being a part of a team? Or is it, hey, you're ready to now do this thing entirely by yourself? And I feel like that is something that is actually going to help the entrepreneurship space, because there are people that have great talents, but not talented at conflict resolution or the tough conversations or making sure the books are good. And like some people just don't have that mentality, but they can really do some great things. But they could actually win bigger and make more money and have less stress than if they were trying to do it by themselves.
Boom. You just sold people on like staying in your lane.
No, for sure, really, man. Because listen, I mean, you know, like I know, like there are some people that you meet, it's like they're living a nightmare, but they're selling a dream. Yeah. You know, and it's like, that's not the way to be either. Yeah. But there are some really great wins. And I feel like there's been a lot of automation talk over the last couple of years too. Yeah. I think people are realizing that there are aspects you can automate, but you still got to do some stuff. Yeah. And so I'm kind of glad to see all of that stuff kind of phase out, and people, like, I think over the next couple of years we'll figure out who really has the entrepreneurship bone, and we'll see who doesn't. Yeah. And when that all kind of settles down, we'll have a great foundation for growth. So good. Yeah. So
where can people connect with you? And what's your podcast about?
So podcast is Run the Play Show, and we talk about leadership principles. Okay. I'm actually about to start a live show on there. It's called The Locker Room, where I do like live, like leadership type coaching, but it's like, it's not the nice style. It's gonna be like in your face, like, yo, this is what you need to fix. I
love your like, I'm not a basketball player, but like all the innuendos are like of like run the play, locker room.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, because I still resonate with it. I still get it, but it's like, there's so many aspects of business that's like, I think people overcomplicate it. It's like Run the Play came from, I was in business and people were like, man, how do you do this? I'm like, bro, I don't do anything different. Like, this was the game plan and I just ran the play. Yeah. And a lot of people, they'll get the play and they start questioning the play, or they want to change the play, or they want to take it and tweak it. And it's like, but this is working. Why would I do that? Yeah.
So good.
So that's there. We got the solar company, Harbor Solar. That's been going really, really well. We're in like 23 markets now. We just rolled out Community Solar too, which is a really cool space. Instagram, New Age CEO. That's where you can connect with me everywhere. From, books, audios, content.
What's the thing that like, did Anthony O'Neill create a network and you're in it now?
Yeah, I'm also a part of Anthony's network. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that's like my brother too. Anthony's like super smart, super dope.
Yeah. No, I was like, that's really cool.
The Neatness Network.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think like when I see stuff like that, it's crazy how just seeing like a few people do stuff together that are just good, cool, awesome stuff together. Yeah. Like it creates a feeling. Even you guys on your little fitness tip right now.
Yeah, for sure.
It motivated me to like, dude, that's cool that they're like all, like challenging each other and making a thing. You guys don't realize what you're doing. Yeah. Maybe you do. Yeah. You guys are geniuses. But like, if you guys don't know, so like there's a handful of these like online entrepreneur, personal brand guys here in Atlanta, and they all collectively are doing a fitness challenge. Yep. You guys all got the whoop. Yep. And then connected to the app and all that stuff. But what somebody called me and he actually was like, hey, would you be interested in like building something like this? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if it might be a little forced if you're like building it because you're replicating somebody else doing it. Yeah. But what you guys don't realize you're doing is like just like the amount of impressions this fitness like collaboration thing is probably having on the internet in the entrepreneur space. Mm-hmm. I mean, you guys will never know the full impact. Yeah, it's insane.
That's the thing. It's so funny because most of the things that turn out to be kind of dope is never really planned. Like it was like, this is legitimately like a contest. Like, because people are like, what are y'all going for? Like, there's no money on the table. Yeah. This is just who could have the best. It's like we just want to see who can do the best. Yeah. And so it's cool to see, like, of course you see Trap out there doing his thing, Marcus. It ends in a couple weeks, and so it's gonna be nice to see how everybody really have you been disciplined enough, because all of us travel, and that used to be my thing. It's not anymore, but like, because this forced me to like get better in that area. I was like, man, everybody's traveling. I'm traveling too. That's not an excuse. Every hotel I stay at has a gym. So Justin, you're just lazy. You just don't want to go to the gym. And I had to face some things about me. So now that's been really fun. And the accountability indirectly to make sure your body's in shape has been really cool too.
Yeah, that's super dope. Dude, I appreciate you. Thank you for
having me, man. I love the impact, the content you put out. I've watched a lot of your stuff for a while. I'm like, man, he's really, really smart. And you break things down in a very simple way. So, just keep doing it, bro. And keep being a genuine person. look, this is our first time really meeting. I will tell you, like the same way he's online, he's the same way in person. So it's really dope to see people that are like that, bro.
You.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right.